Welcome to Edu.Share channel. Presentation on Tests on Aggregate. Elongation Test, Part 4. Content. Test on Aggregates. Elongation Test, Elongation Test. For determination of elongation index of coarse aggregate, where the size of the coarse aggregate are larger than 6.3 mm. Apparatus. Aggregate sample. Digital balance. Elongation gauge or length gauge. Test sieves of sizes -63 mm, 50 mm, 40 mm, 31.5 mm, 25 mm, 20 mm, 16 mm, 10 mm and 6.3 mm. Procedure of elongation test. Take the aggregate sample which contains minimum 200 pieces of any fraction. Sieve the sample through mentioned sieves, that is, from 63 mm to 6.3 mm sieves. The aggregate retained on 63 mm and passed through 6.3 mm should not be considered. The aggregate passed through 63 mm and retained on 6.3 mm and its above sieves is taken along with sieves. Now we have specified size range for every particle. Now weigh aggregate retained on different sieve. Note down the total weight as W1. The aggregate particles from each of the size ranges taken and passed through corresponding gauge of length gauge or elongation gauge with its longest side. Each gauge length is 1.8 times the mean dimension of aggregate size range. If particle retained on 10 mm and passed through 16 mm size is taken, then it should pass through 23.4 mm length gauge, which is 1.8 times the mean of 10 mm and 16 mm. To keep accuracy and eliminate testing bias, the particle should be passed multiple times with different facings. The particles which are not passed or retained on the length gauge are weighed, which is W2. Now calculate the elongation index, which is the ratio of weight of particle retained on length gauge to the total weight of the sample gauged, and it is expressed in percentage. Calculation. In order to calculate the elongation index of the entire sample of aggregates, first the weight of each fraction of aggregate passing and retained on the specified set of sieves is noted, Y1, Y2, Y3, Y4, etc. Each piece of these are tried to be passed through specified length of the gauge length with its longest side, and those elongated pieces which do not pass the gauge are separated and weighed, Y1, Y2, Y3, Y4, etc. Then the elongated index is the total weight of the material retained on the various length gauges, expressed as a percentage of the total weight of the sample gauged. Elongation index equals elongation index limits. For pavements either bituminous or non-bituminous, elongation index of coarse aggregate should not be more than 15%. Result. Elongation index is reported in percentage to the nearest whole number.
Thank you for watching Edu.Share channel. Please like, share, and subscribe.